When we look a little closer at nature and its systems, it becomes very evident that many of the answers to our greatest collective challenges have been available to us all along. As Richard said earlier, the ocean is truly our climate hero. Unique biodiversity and coastal marine ecosystems play a key role in mitigating climate change. I previously caught up with Dr. Emily Pidgeon, Vice President, Ocean Science and Innovation at Conservation International, who is an expert on solutions for coastal and marine adaptation to climate change and on developing marine based approaches for mitigation through blue carbon. She filled me in on some of the opportunities Europe has when it comes to blue carbon. Dr. Pigeon, blue carbon has been hitting the conservation headlines recently. What's the importance of blue carbon ecosystems for Europe when it comes to climate mitigation and adaptation?
So, blue carbon ecosystems are these very special coastal wetland systems that sit at the interface of the ocean and the land, the mangroves, the seagrasses, and the salt marshes. And I believe that they are the most super of the ecosystems out there. We've known this for years. We've appreciated how important they are for biodiversity. There's an amazing diversity of animals, everything from tigers and sharks to otters that live in these amazing ecosystems around the world. But we also now know they're really important for addressing climate change. These coastal wetlands are incredibly efficient at pulling carbon dioxide out of the water and the atmosphere and burying it in the soil below them. And they do this for millennia and have done so for millennia, which means that they've built up these enormous stores of carbon in the soils below them. And when we destroy them, that carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere. In Europe, there are two main blue carbon ecosystems, the seagrasses and salt marshes. Seagrasses off the coast of Spain and the Mediterranean are some of the most carbon rich seagrasses anywhere in the world, with many thousands of years of carbon built up below them. You have salt marshes all the way along the coast, including rich salt marshes all the way through Germany, Denmark, and up through Scandinavia. And these ecosystems really should be part of our global approach to addressing climate change. Europe is also where we really learnt about how these coastal wetlands are important for protecting us from the impacts of climate change. For hundreds of years now on the coast of Europe, people have recognized that salt marshes are very important for protecting them from storms, from flooding, and from erosion, and have learnt to use these ecosystems as green infrastructure. And that learning is really important for the entire world in understanding the role of blue carbon ecosystems for both mitigation and adaptation.
Wonderful. So, do you see blue carbon opportunities in the EU when it comes to the European Green Deal and Paris Agreement targets?
So, those two policy agreements, the Paris Climate Agreement and the European Green Deal, are really strong opportunities for the EU to start featuring blue carbon. At the moment, blue carbon isn't integrated into either the EU commitments to the Paris Climate Accord or into the European Green Deal. And conservation and restoration of these ecosystems and the climate benefit for both mitigation and adaptation is a real opportunity for EU in both those two policy arenas. And that's not just along the coasts of mainland Europe that we think of traditionally, but also along the extensive coastlines of the territories that belong to the EU all around the world. In these countries or in these regions, territories of the EU, some of the most vulnerable people depend on their blue carbon ecosystems, their mangroves, their seagrass, and their salt marsh to both protect them from climate change and to mitigate climate change. So, integrating both the Europe mainland but also across the world into commitments by the EU is a key next step.
Well, we appreciate you highlighting the importance and necessity of infusing more blue into the Green Deal as well as the Paris Climate Accords. Dr. Pigeon, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like there is a lot of potential for blue carbon in Europe. If you'd like to understand more on blue carbon, you can join Emily in our Protecting Coastal Blue Carbon Ecosystems Action Lab or find out more about verification of blue carbon ecosystems with Vera in another Action Lab, both of which are coming up soon. We're running about 10 minutes behind schedule, so Action Labs will begin just after our predetermined time. Now, before we speak again with the commissioner, we'll hear from two marine biologists on the front lines with their boots on the ground, or should I say, their fins in the water, working to help protect blue carbon ecosystems, a nature-based solution to climate change.
Seaforester is an initiative dedicated to restoring the forgotten forests of our oceans. Seaweed forests are indeed disappearing all over the globe without people even realizing it, and that is why our approach is to work directly with local coastal communities and their municipalities to boost the value of their coastal regions. Restoring these ecosystems can be a crucial step to mitigate climate change or even to alleviate loss of biodiversity in these areas. There are already dozens of efforts dedicated to develop new techniques to restore these ecosystems. Seaweed forests have the smallest restored areas of all coastal habitats, but 80% of all restoration projects are smaller than 100 square meters, and some of them don't last longer than 2 years. So that is definitely something that we at Seaforester want to see changing. A lot can be said about kelp forests since they hold a lot of benefits to both the environment and humanity. They are actually valued at $1 million per kilometer of coastline, and this is most likely an underestimation of the real value. Kelp forests are one of the most productive habitats on the planet, and they harbor and feed a variety of species that some of them are actually high commercial value. They are also carbon sinks, and they are much more efficient at sequestering carbon than land forests. They also alleviate coastal erosion and ocean acidification, but perhaps the most important role of kelp forests is as a nature-based solution that could help mitigate climate change.
The Posidonia seagrass is the most important ecosystem in the Mediterranean shore. And here in the middle of Cesalines Natural Park of Formentera, Ibiza, we can see the effect of the Posidonia, that every day is releasing a very important amount of oxygen that is evaporating the water. At the same time, is building up reefs that is protecting the shore from the ocean, and is the habitat for hundreds of species. Also, the Posidonia seagrass is one of the most important carbon sink that we have in the planet, and we call blue carbon. We are in a main tourism destination for the boats, and we witnessed an impact in the last years of the anchors over the Posidonia. So we have created an application, an app that is free in an Apple Store and in Android. And with this app, the people, when they are navigating, they will know very clear if they can drop the anchor without doing on top the Posidonia.
Seaforester Cascais started in 2019. With very precise goals to identify the marine algae species that create seaweed forests and to what level they can contribute to the conservation development of the Cascais coast.
The project is being funded by the Portuguese government, and with the collaboration of Cascais municipality, we are testing what we believe is one of the most promising methods to restore kelp forests. The method was developed by scientists in Norway and Australia, and it's called the green gravel. We basically seed small rocks with seaweed spores in the lab. There they will grow for about 2 months, and then the gravel will be planted in the damaged reef where it can grow and establish full canopies. Right now we are testing the technique in Cascais, but in the future we do hope to use this method to restore larger areas.
This work translates further into namely our economy, local fishing, still an artisanal traditional in Cascais, which will have more biodiversity and higher stocks, or gastronomy with healthier sea products to integrate into our diets, or finally into circular economy. The algae recovered from the beach is an excellent fertilizer for agriculture. Looking after our blue backyard in turn helps to look after the economy and people in Cascais.
Well, it's 30 years I'm living here in Formentera, and we have an NGO that is called Belmarí Association, and the most important goal we have is the education of the kids. We are doing this participating in real conservation project, and one of the things that we want to put inside their hearts and their brain is that it's very easy for human beings to destroy nature, but it's really difficult to restore what we are destructing.
It's really great to see how the answers are already here. We just need to protect them. Nature is the solution and has the solution, and we just need to understand how to live in harmony with nature. Restoration and regenerative practices are the key. The Ocean Race is also investing in blue carbon ecosystems and looking at being climate positive. The race is balancing their GHGs through a fantastic mangrove project in Madagascar. Now, let's hear from the Deputy Mayor of Cascais on where he feels our protection measures should be directed and the urgency of taking action beyond the idea of conservation.
Cascais is a municipality where the ocean represents half of our borders. Our relationship with the sea is ancient and broad, from fishermen to explorers, from investors to tourists, to our local residents. This ocean is, for many of us, the reason to be here. This is one of the reasons that for many years now we have invested in identifying, protecting and monitoring the environmental capital of our coast. We do this as a municipality, working close with conservation organizations, managing the best interest of nature and, above all, the environment with citizens' needs. Also, we promote a close relationship with scientific entities, always aligned with the EU marine directives. Nowadays, when we speak about the environment, nature and ocean, we are beyond the conservation topic. We must actively work to regenerate and reverse. This is what we have to focus on in the upcoming years.
Well, there we have it, and I couldn't agree more. We are beyond conservation. We need to regenerate and reverse. So what do you think, Commissioner?
I think that was put very well, and probably there were a lot of great speakers. But what's obvious, and I think what does not get enough attention, and I'm very happy that we raised it today, that the obvious solution for solving climate change, for solving most of the issues are there. We have to speak about healthy oceans, healthy soils, and healthy ecosystems. And that requires, of course, change of attitude towards them. I'm always quite upset when the whole debates shift somewhere to technological progress, to nice and beautiful things which are not yet invented. Nature can do most of the things for us, and I think we have to rely on nature and we have to trust it. And I'm very happy that today it was very clearly raised.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today, Commissioner. It's been really great to hear of the work that you're doing to raise the profile of the ocean's importance and give it a voice, just as we are trying to do here at the Ocean Race Summits. We look forward to following up with you soon and hearing about the progress that you've talked about today. So let's continue to strengthen our collective efforts to restore the ocean so your son, along with the rest of the next generation, will have a thriving ocean to enjoy when they become adults. Take care, Commissioner. Thank you.